The theater scene, up close, in depth. This is On Stage.
Welcome back. Arthur Laurents has made a name for himself on stage and screen. His film credits include screenplays for The Way We Were and The Turning Point. But in the theater, he is, of course, best known for writing the books for Gypsy and West Side Story. And even as Mr. Laurents enters his 90s, he's still going strong. He's at the helm of the current Broadway revival of Gypsy, and he's at work on a new production of West Side Story. And it's that venture that contributing correspondent Patrick Pacheco discusses with Mr. Laurents in this second installment of his two-part interview.
In our last conversation, Arthur, you mentioned that you got a radically new interpretation of West Side Story that you are going to direct. You wrote it, obviously, in Washington this fall. Give us a hint. Tell us what's radical about it. What's different?
Interestingly enough, it was Tom Hatcher, whom you mentioned before, who
your longtime
urged
partner.
me, 52 years, who urged me to do Gypsy with Patti, and that's really that's why I did it. I did it for him, and he also had an idea that is one of the reasons I'm doing West Side Story, and it is unlike any West Side Story anyone has ever seen. It makes it totally contemporary without changing a word. Now there's childish. You say, okay, how? And I say, come see.
So tease us a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something else. I learned about West Side from doing Gypsy. Because digging into it, then I looked at West Side, and I realized there are parts of it musically, which I think is the best thing about it, the score, that were fine for 1957, but don't work today. For example, the Jet song. It's, you know, it's when you're a jet, you know, cha-cha-cha.
All the way from
these kids are killers. They're vicious killers. You can't play them as cute little adorable, I don't know what, chorus boys in that hateful movie.
So is it likely to be more of a gangsta vision of these gangs?
Not gangsters, of what they really are. Kids today are in a terrible state, and they kill, and every time you turn on television you see some kids beating up or stabbing or shooting another kid for no reason. That seems to be the modus that they operate on, and that has to be in the musical.
Are we likely to see Spanish used a little bit more than we did in previous incarnations? The language itself?
A lot.
A lot? A lot of Spanish? So you're going to try...
Aren't you clever? No, I'm not going anymore on that.
Why do you suppose that no revival since that original production has ever had the powerful impact that the original production
There was
had?
only one revival.
Oh, is there, I guess, the 1980 revival that we're talking about? With Debbie Allen and Ken Marshall and...
it was White Bread.
Yeah, it was a bit too calm, too...
Oh, it was pallid.
Too decent.
It was... No, it just had no energy, no vitality, no passion, no sex.
Are you likely to get any names for this production, or just...
You can't get any names. There aren't... First of all, I want it to be very young, very passionate, very sexual. Well, the only names you like that are in rehab, I think. You know, and they also, this is the hardest show in the world to cast. Because they really have to. What they can't do, they couldn't in the original, and I don't expect it. You can't find people who can really sing, dance, and act that terrifically, all three. So you have to make compromises.
Yeah, it's tough.
But also keep them young.
You've been a part of Broadway for 63 years, since Home of the Brave, debuted on Broadway in 1945.
Is that long ago?
1945, 63 years. In terms of musical theater, what have been among the most positive developments in musical theater and the most destructive elements, in your opinion, since then, over the years?
Well, unfortunately, it's better to think that the destructive come to mind easier.
What are the destructive elements?
It's mindless. It's just, I think television lowered everybody's, I don't know, 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 imagination. Television tells you. You don't have to think. And they have these revivals. I don't want to mention anything by name because I'll get killed, but they're boring. They're totally expected. You want surprise. This Gypsy is a success because it's totally surprising. Nobody expects what they get when they come into the theater. The good things are, I think, of the musical staging in Spring Awakening.
You like that?
I love that.
Bill
T. Jones, I thought that was brilliant.
What did you think of the book and the music itself?
I love the music, not the lyrics. And I know all this talk about the Vatican book, but when you examine it, today it's a very corny story. Boy meets girl, boy knocks up girl, she has an abortion, she dies, he cries.
Would you have suggested it not be done as a musical?
Oh, I liked it.
Yeah.
I had a good time at it. I didn't care because the musical part of it, and it was very well staged, and the lighting was terrific.
What has been the most hopeful signs that you've seen in the musical theater, particularly when it comes to musical book writing, which is probably the hardest thing in the world to do? What you have achieved, what you've accomplished, is probably 1.5 people that can do it. Nothing
very hopeful.
Nothing at all?
No, I mean, I hate when I'm asked this because it makes me sound like, you know, a real monster, but I'm not going to say what I don't believe, and I don't believe people don't know structure. They don't for plays either. They don't, craft is totally disregarded. Plays are just kind of like action painting. They throw it on the wall and hope it'll stick.
You're writing a book.
Yes, I'm writing
Gypsy?
a book called Mainly on Directing Gypsy and Other Musicals. And it's mainly is an operative word because a lot of it is very personal. About my life and the life of the people involved. And I don't think anybody has ever discussed how to direct a musical and what you should try to do.
Was there anything specifically that was key that you had in your conversations with Patti about Madame Rose that really led to a huge discovery either on her part or your part that made this revival a success?
The key conversation we had was when she explained to me how she worked as an actress. And then I knew how to direct her. I don't think you can direct any two real, I think she's an artist, a real artist. And Rose has to evolve. If you go in with an idea, well, she's Madame Rose and she's this and she's that, let's see what happens. Go into a scene and see what happens. And it evolves in front of you. And when you say, oh, that's good.
When did you say, oh, that's good, when you were directing her?
There was a Rose's Turn that she did at City Center that everybody thought was terrific. I didn't. The audience screamed and all that. I thought it wasn't right for Patti. She was doing things that I thought were not right for her. So I threw it out. And we started working on a totally other one. And where she is wonderful is that I had an idea, and she would go along, and then she more than made it her own. She becomes very creative. And it's just a joy to work that way and let it happen. And let it develop. And one night, I remember, this wasn't till we were in previews at the St. James, that I went to her dressing room after the performance and I said, well, you connected. And she said, yeah, I connected. What I meant and what she knew I meant was, you're Rose. You can try things, they'll go this way, they'll go that way, but they're Rose. They're her Rose. And that's the way it should be. If you set it all according to a diagram, it's dull.
It has to just organically evolve between the two of you.
Right.
Thank you very much for spending time with us. Good luck on the book. Good luck on the revival of West Side Story. We're expecting to hear from you for another 63 years.
Well, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur.
Okay.
Okay, it is time for a short break right now.